Hey, Farrell.
Yes.
You know the coolest thing about Untamed television?
What is that?
Is that there's no rules.
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. In fact, we are going to have a look of a production that was shot back in 1999.
Yeah. Yep.
And what was
Yeah.
it? It's for Antelope Island.
It was for Antelope Island. It was. I'm not exactly sure what it was, to be honest with you, but it was. It was shot like back in '99, but it's still viable today. I mean,
It's like 9,000 years ago.
at least. So
I can't believe we had technology back then.
it's incredible. So check it out.
Watch along.
Great Salt Lake, wilderness adjacent to a city, a shifting shoreline that plays havoc with highways, islands too stark, too remote to inhabit, water in the desert that no one can drink. It is the liquid lie of the West.
Now this is the story of the basins and ranges. Every rock tells a story, and every feature tells a story. Antelope Island is the biggest island. And what I love about Antelope Island is that it's been protected from development. So not only does it have a story, you can see the story. This rock's probably 500 million years old. Forces within the earth move portions of the crust with respect to each other. You have the basin dropping down, the island staying high, and so what you have is an enclosed basin because it's dropped. That's why you have Great Salt Lake, and it explains why we have an island.
If the desert is holy, it is because it is a forgotten place that allows us to remember the sacred. Perhaps that is why every pilgrimage to the desert is a pilgrimage to the self. There is no place to hide, and so we are found. In the severity of a salt desert, I am brought down to my knees by its beauty. My imagination is fired, my heart opens, and my skin burns in the passion of these moments.
Antelope Island is one of those spectacular islands for birds on the lake. It's the largest island, 18 miles long, about 4 miles wide. This is a profoundly important site for large numbers of birds of individual species. Abundant food, lots of space, proper conditions at the right time when birds are in migration. Somewhere around 72 to 76 species. Those little riparian areas support songbirds. The uplands are ideal nesting for birds like chukar partridge, for the upland nesting sandpipers like the long-billed curlew and the willet, and obviously the marshes down below are ideal for avocets and stilts. The causeway itself provides an excellent foraging habitat for migrating sanderlings. And then in the winter, the surrounding waters of the lake around the island provide great habitat for wintering common golden eyes and other winter ducks that are here. The Great Salt Lake has the largest population of breeding California gulls in the world. This place is one of several California gull colonies in the Great Salt Lake. It's called Hat Island. It was named by Howard Stansbury and his survey crew, who were the early surveyors of the lake in the 1850s. But since it's been called Bird Island for a good reason. We've had as many as 160,000 breeding adult California gulls. But they do eat a lot of brine shrimp and brine flies, and they do use that as a food source for the young. But brine flies and brine shrimp are keystone species. If it weren't for those two species here at the lake, we would not have this bird abundance. Gunnison Island is the largest bird rookery of the islands of the lake. It is the only site where we have large numbers of nesting white pelicans. This really is a crowning jewel of the Great Salt Lake.
Many people think that the reason there's salt in Great Salt Lake is because Lake Bonneville dried up and you just have this puddle left. Well, it's a little more complex than that. In the springtime, the waters come in from the snowmelt, and in the summer, the lake evaporates and so it goes down. That's about a 2 feet fluctuation. And why is it salty? Well, remember, it's a basin. So the water comes in and the sediments come in and the salts come in. Well, the water gets out by evaporation. What's left behind? The sediments, they drop to the bottom and the salt stays in solution until it's so saturated that it drops out as well. So there's about 2 billion tons of salt in Great Salt Lake, but there's about 2 million tons of salt that come in every year. So it's a very renewing process.
It's that kind of renewal of the land that offers us a renewal of the spirit. The silence, the solitude, the curlews, the coyotes, the changing light, the capriciousness. You never know what you will find here. And therefore, I think it really is a landscape of the imagination, where nothing is as it appears. The landscapes we know and return to become places of solace. We are drawn to them because of the stories they tell, because of the memories they hold, or simply because of the sheer beauty that calls us back again and again.
Everybody thinks you're fantastic. You grew up out on the Antelope Island? Wow, you know.
I can remember then starting to ride and on the range and working when I was 5 to 6 out here with my father.
So we put in at least 10 hours a day, maybe more, out in the hot sun and the insects and dust and whatever. And the jobs varied, you know, when I was driving the tractor and pulling the combine, and that was the worst part, you know, the chaff would get down your neck, and it was hot, and you sweat, and you itched. It's kind of like these mosquitoes biting us now, only much worse. And they were long days. My dad would let us sleep in sometimes till 6:30 in the morning before we started work.
That's if you had the cows milked.
If we had all the chores done.
Ranch hands in Antelope Island, 150 a month, board and room. That sounded exciting.
It's a place of peace and hard work, but it's exciting, it's fun, you do things that you'd never have an opportunity to do any other place.
Whenever we have guests come to visit us in Salt Lake City, the first place we take them is Antelope Island, here. And what we ask them to do is to just simply sit and listen, and to remember their own wild heart as they hear the pulse of this place beating.
The pronghorn were native to the island. That's why Fremont on his expedition named it Antelope Island, which is what the pronghorn was known as. The antelope all disappeared in the early 1900s. The antelope were reintroduced in 1993. With the bison, there are between 550 and 700 on the island. So they have, they're probably the most numerous, or definitely the most numerous of the hoofed mammals on the island. And they pretty much range over the entire island. There aren't a lot of places that the bison don't go. This bison herd is managed. Basically, there are no predators, since there are no wolves, that are capable of really controlling the bison population. And so on the island, once a year, they round up the animals. They then take some of the animals and sell them to other state parks. They also sell some to private ranchers that want to start bison herds. The bighorn sheep were introduced onto the island in 1997. The bighorn sheep are really restricted to areas close to escape terrain, which is steep, rocky, cliffy areas where they can outmaneuver any predator that's after them. The mule deer certainly are native to the area, native to the island. There are approximately 200. We see them almost everywhere.
I think it's a place where we encounter other. Long-billed curlew, pronghorn antelope, bison, mule deer, burrowing owl, and therefore I think it makes us less lonely in the world. We remember who we are and what we're connected to, in the deepest sense. Paul Shepard has said that the mind expands with the vista. And if we believe that to be true, then I can only imagine the effect that Antelope Island, Great Salt Lake, this beautiful salt desert is having on our souls. The unknown Utah is a landscape of the imagination, a secret we tell to those who will keep it.